So it's the Civil War, and there's these people, the Lumbee Indians, and they have English surnames, and they have darker skin, and they are using the land, the swamps, and the soil that is hard to transport in and out of, and probably a place where they're afraid of the snakes and the critters, although that doesn't come up in the storyline, but seems to be. And they are being forced to build forts for the South during the Civil War. And so as it gets caught on, the malaria and the issues that the Indians are having, a habit called lying out takes place, where the young men go and hide in the swamps so that they don't have to go and help the South build their forts. And so in the process of this, the home guard, or those that would be sending the Indians to help, at one point I heard it put this way: they didn't want to send their slaves to go catch malaria, they'd rather send the Indians. But there is a showdown at the Lowry house, and Dad and Henry Berry Lowry's brother are killed. And this begins, try as they might, they cannot track down Henry Berry Lowry when he's hiding in the swamp. So he does get put in prison, put in jail a few times, and escapes. And the famous one with Calvin and Henderson Oxendine is out of Wilmington, and perhaps his wife, Rhoda Lowry, helps with that. But during the Civil War, there's the process of lying out, and the issue comes about that not only are they not helping their families farm the little bit of land that the Indians would have, but also they are needing to eat themselves. And so they get known as a Robin Hood type gang, where they would go to rich plantations and take from them and share with the poor Indians and black people, according to this book, to die game. And it's also it's called also Strike at the Wind, is about Henry Berry Lowry. It's an outdoor drama that you can watch now online, and it's a captivating story. So at the end of the Civil War, Sherman comes through on his march, and it tells the story of an Oxendine who helped Sherman and gets killed after the war during the Reconstruction time, or the martial law time, where the Union Army was supposed to be in control, and then the murderer is not tracked down and is not brought to account. And those who helped the Union Army are supposed to get reimbursed, but it takes 10 years for an Oxendine in the book to get reimbursed. Maybe Solomon Oxendine, I can't remember exactly what the name is. But this book recounts the stories of these run-ins, and the Home Guard, and then later the Ku Klux Klan gets frustrated with their inability to track down the Lowrys. And I think in the book it's not, the Ku Klux Klan is not named specifically. It's implied that they think they're at work. There seems to be a hierarchy that shouldn't exist one day when they lynch some of the Indians. But they get desperate, and so the Home Guard, or whoever it is that's now working in the middle of the night, they kill a prominent Republican black politician, and then they capture Andrew Strong, and it's kind of guilt by association, and another person, And just before they execute him, he disappears into the swamp. So you work at night, and a Lumbee Indian escapes into the swamp. You're not going to find him. You're not going to find Andrew Strong anyway. And so this is kind of the story of the book, and these individual stories and these places where there is this honor. At one point, Henry Berry Lowry says, if we could make some kind of a deal where I could come in, I would love to work a regular job. My wife would love for me to earn my bread in a normal way. The book claims that the Jesse James gang robs a bank in Kentucky, and as they're leaving, they claim to be the Henry Berry Lowry gang in order to maybe throw the scent off of them, but they're in Kentucky. Really, it's a tragedy because he loses his father and his brother, and at one point there is an obvious culprit, one of the KKK or the Home Guard that has murdered an Indian. It's clear who that person is, and it's also clear that the court or the power is not going to deal with them. And Lowry says, well, I will deal with them. And at this point, now they have federal troops that are in the area trying to catch the Lowry gang, and he goes within 150 yards of where the federal troops are and shoots the culprit and then disappears into the swamp. They say that there's another book that was written by the widow of Sheriff King that was killed during a Lowry robbery, not by Lowry himself, but his widow was bitter, as you would expect her to be, and so there is a much less flattering book about the Lowry gang that can be accessed. In the book, it makes it clear that 1835 said that people of color or Indians could no longer have weapons in North Carolina. And so that is a big deal, and that might be part of the problem at the Lowry house, that their dad had some guns hidden. And obviously that's a big, important part, because Henry Berry Lowry is at church one Sunday, and the new sheriff is there, but the sheriff didn't come with a gun on his hip, and Lowry did. And so that's a drama that plays out in this book. One of the early gang members and an escapee with them from the Wilmington jail was George Applewhite. And he is able to survive, and he is let go by a judge. And some of the Lowry gang, I believe it was him, but some people are let off because they made a law in North Carolina to try to help those who were part of the KKK, that they wouldn't be held accountable for the group's actions. And a decent judge applied that in the case of some of the Lowry gang members. George Applewhite was a black man, and he married an Oxendine and moved out of state.